Olabisi Ibitayo, and this is Banter with Bisi. And what do we do here? Banter with Bisi is a discussion. It's a place where I invite people over. They come and we just chat. We talk about topical issues. As much as possible, we try to get different perspectives. The maiden edition was 2 weeks back, if you remember. And I had here with me my friend Debola Atoyebi, where we talked about insecurity issues as relating to women. And it was quite interesting. It was quite enlightening. And after that, we got a lot of messages, emails, phone calls, and people were like, guess what? You've just done the female perspective. What about males? And I remember a particular message was saying to me, don't men have insecurity issues? And then I paused and I said, you know what? We put a lot of spotlight, if I can put it that way, on the females, on the males, on the females, on the women. We're always going on about what women should do to get better. And I stood back and I said, of course, men, I think, do have insecurity issues. The reason I put the word think is because I'm not the one who's going to be talking about that. I have someone here who's going to be dealing with that with me. We're going to be chatting together. And so I'd like you to please go ahead and invite your friends. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Bisi Ibitaya. And my Facebook page is Olabisi Ibitaya. So just come in, join in the conversation. We'd like to hear your take on whether men have insecurity issues. But then before we go on, I'd like to say this to us. Everybody at one point or the other has insecurities. You have insecurity issues over certain things, certain areas in your life, in certain seasons of your lives. But the problem is when we do not deal with this and it becomes a major in our lives, when we do not deal with this and it begins to overwhelm us and it begins to affect other areas of our lives. And so to do justice to this topic with me today, and I promise it's going to be a very interesting one. Yes, I can see you, Hannah. Hannah says, yes, men need to hear this. So call all the men in your life. Call them, all the men in your life. Let them come on board as we go on today in Banter with BC. And then I bring my guest online. Okay. And so I have with me here today my friend. I call him Malga at the top, but today he's Tunji to me. So I'm not going to get into trouble for this. I'd like to welcome you to today's edition of Banter with BC. You're welcome, Tunji.
Thank you very much. I'm really very grateful to be here and to banter with you. I really look forward to this discussion.
Same here. I look forward to it as well. Well, Tunji Adeyinka is my guest today, and I tell you honestly, he's an amazing person. He's my friend. He's my go-to person. My husband knows him very well. He's a very secure man, so I can say that. And his wife is equally secure also, for me to have the kind of relationship I have with him. I have very few men I go to as my go-to people. And this gentleman here today with me is one of such go-to people. I drum my ideas on him, and he never thinks any idea is foolish. So all he does, when he pauses for too long, I think that idea is probably not very good. But then he still comes back and he goes, not so bad. And so today we'd like to have you introduce yourself to us, Tunji. Just tell us who you are and why you think you should be discussing this topic with me today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Don't be afraid today. You can call me.
You noticed.
Yeah, I noticed. Yes,
okay. Thank you very much, Bisi. My name is Tunji Adeyinka. I am someone who has a different path. If I had to paint it, I grew up in where my parents in a very stable home. My father, who was a civil servant, was the head of the home. My mom was a nurse, and I had the privilege of growing up with 5 other I'm the first in the family, the first male and the firstborn. From a professional point of view, I started early in the marketing space. I started in advertising, actually, and then expanded further. I did more of advertising. I've worked on the agency side, advising clients, and also work on the client side as well. Worked close to 30 years in management. I have the privilege of having worked with providing solutions to marketing problems, sales problems, commercial problems generally. I am married to Temitope. Been married for so many years now. We were blessed with a daughter and a son. And over time, I found myself involved with young people, and also very interestingly, involved with men. And we're going to talk about this topic, but being a man and also being a firstborn, growing up, uh, came with what you could call some latent responsibilities and certain expectations,
Wow.
which we're going to be speaking about today. And at the end of the day, that has kind of conditioned and conditioned me, and that is the Tunji that you see today, the Tunji who leads his brothers and sisters, and who also is a leader in other spheres. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tunji. You also forgot to mention the fact that you also hold a spiritual position.
Mm,
So that would help
yes.
us also. Yes, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. So I'm a pastor. So I pastor. I'm a what you call a zonal pastor, but a pastor essentially in Solid Rock Parish. Working with a senior pastor in that role. Working with a group of ministers. Solid Rock is one of the redeemed parishes located around the Ojodu axis of Lagos, and so that is also, in fact, that is a very important part of me, and one of the reasons I didn't say that is also because essentially, even before talking about the positional leadership, I'm someone who believes in Christ, and I must say that up front, and not giving any excuses for that. That is my anchor and my go-to, and because, as you said at the beginning, that all of us have at one time or the other dealt with insecurities, and some of us are still dealing with insecurities in certain areas of our lives. And if we go through what it is and we look at the context of where we serve in Nigeria, you'll find out that really, if you don't know God in this part of the world, you are on your own. The bottom line. And thank you very much to Jesus and to my parents for showing the way very early. To really teach about God, and also understanding that at the end of the day, that is where the confidence comes from. It doesn't come from any man. It doesn't come from the clothes you wear. It doesn't come from the position you hold. It doesn't come from the job you do. Because my sister, so as men, we describe ourselves, and sometimes our self-worth is anchored on the job that we do, or the position that we hold. But you find out that in a flash, that job and that position can be taken away from you. And when it is taken away, you must have an anchor. With your anchor hold, as the hymn says. So generally, that is me. But you're very right that anchor is a very critical part of my life, and I dare say it is right in the middle center of my life, and I don't make any excuses about it. Okay, I'm sure this is struggling a bit with a connection. She's going to be joining.
5,800. Okay. Hello, I don't know what happened there. Hello, we're back on air now. Can you hear me
Sure.
now? Okay.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I really don't know what went wrong there. I'd like to say pardon me to us all. Okay, so you were saying, can you hear me very well there?
Perfectly.
Perfectly. Okay, so we were actually talking, and then you said something about the kind of upbringing you had, the way you were brought up. I'd just like to say, give an instance, and I want you to listen to this and help me out to say maybe these are one of the reasons why our men go through stuff. Okay, I worked in the school system for a while. And then what happened was one of those days, I'd gotten this complaint about this particular boy. He was about, I think he was about 8 years old then. And so I'd gotten this report from teachers concerning him. And then I'd heard stuff that he was always mean and he had a way of bullying people. But what they observed was that he was doing it only with the females in his classroom or any female on the playground and things like that. And so one of those days I called him. I said, okay, the teachers had done different measures to see how they could help him out. And then I called him into my office as the head of school. And so when he came into my office and we got talking, and I was like, my darling, why are you this? Why does this happen? And this young boy, 7 going on 8 then, he looked at me square in the face, in my eyes, and he said to me, he said, my dad has told me that a girl has no business talking back at a boy. I paused. I said, seriously? He said, yes. He says, Mrs. Ibitayo, my dad says it's wrong for any girl to talk back at a boy. He says, so for that reason, I can't imagine those girls in my class or any girl. And I sat down there and I was puzzled. And so I'm asking you now, what is this going to, or where is this leading to, and why is it this way, if I may ask?
Okay, all right. So, and you know, let's take it down to the foundation. I was watching, I think it was Bishop T.D. Jakes a few days ago, talking about how men are really an endangered species in these times, and specifically was speaking about the training of boys and men, and he gave an example of, so he was shaving in the mirror. He was holding a mirror and he was shaving, and then he had his 8-year-old son Ben, who was watching. So the 8-year-old son was watching the mirror and seeing the image of the father shaving, and he said, in his mind, he thought, there's so many boys who, the first instance is that the first image or understanding of God that a boy has is his father. So the first time that a boy understands, God and understands the father, understands all of that, is through the father, because the father is the first God that he knows.
Through the biological father in this stance now.
Yes, the biological father. The biological father. And in this case, so what you have is that the father reinforces certain things in the boy, and those things become a building block. So if you look at our character, and I like to define it this way, I think the speaker last week defined very well what we're speaking about when we're talking about insecurity and talking about this boy, is that if you understand the makeup of our being as men or women, you have to understand that what you see, what you saw that the boy was doing is just 10%. 10%. 90% of that boy, the makeup of that boy, is everything that has been hard-coded in over time. If that continues in that way, that is what is going to become his driver, so much so that the 10%, which is the behavior that you will see, is this behavior of not having any respect for the woman folk, maybe, God forbid, rape, maybe, God forbid, even when such a person is married and the wife says, I'm not in the mood for sex today, and then he rapes the wife and believes that they are having sex, and so on and so forth. Because there's the 90%, and the example I give is the example of the iceberg. Now, an iceberg is a natural phenomenon that you find in the sea. It is actually a glacier which is, floating on water. And when you approach the iceberg, you see just 10% of the iceberg, which is what you see as the visible part on top of the water. But 90% is buried under the water. 90% is buried under the water. So God help you if you don't understand that the iceberg that you are driving towards has 90% of the size under. If you look at what happened, and the example that we saw with the Titanic, for example, which sank in 1912, the problem was that the ship went and it hit an iceberg, which it thought was small, and then just went open and then started to sink. Now, the 90% under the water is the character. That is where the character is. And that 90% is made up of different things. It's made up of the words that our fathers have spoken to us over the years. It's made up of the words that our mothers have spoken to us over the years. It's made up of the words that the society has injected in us over the years. It's made up of the experience that we have had at home over the years. Is made up of everything that's been compacted. Is that when you're building a house and you are compacting the ground and you are compacting the sand and compacting it, yes. So all those things have been compacted into us, compacted so much that then it conditions us, it drives us, it motivates us. It is the way that we are coded. So the 10% that you see is this behavior, the behavior of disrespect, the behavior, and that behavior is driven by what has been taught to this boy over time. So it will take the grace of God to change that kind of boy, because if tomorrow the boy begins to beat his wife, it is not, so beating the wife is not the problem, really. The problem is that the boy has been conditioned in that way, and that is what you have on the surface. The second thing, unfortunately, is that you have a stereotype that the society has also conditioned this boy into. The society has conditioned the man to with some messages, some emotions. So the society says that a man is not supposed to cry. It says a man is not supposed to be in the kitchen. A man is not supposed to wash dishes. A man is not supposed to listen to a woman. A man must say something and everybody must listen. A man is not supposed to display affection. A man is macho, is strong, is rugged, is a breadwinner, is athletic, is intimidating, is commanding, is not friendly. So those are the things that come together to build who this man is, right? And at the end of the day, the boy that you saw, I think we've lost Sister Bisi again. She's coming back, but as she's coming back, it's just important to understand that the society.
I honestly apologize. I can't explain what's happening, but then we need to hear that the man is macho. Please go on. It doesn't matter what happened. We're going to do this today. When we had the woman yesterday, there were no issues. So please go on. I'm listening. The man is supposed to be macho. He's not allowed to cry. So many things can happen.
Yeah. Exactly. So all these things have been built into the man. And remember, this is the compacted part. This is that part that is not easy to. So all of this is forced down. The man is supposed to be secretive. He's not supposed to share his emotions with anybody. A man should not cry. A man should not express himself. A man must be a breadwinner. So if a man is not a breadwinner, then there's a. So all of this are goes on and on and on and on. The society expects that, for example, if there's anything that happens in the social sector, in the social fiber of the family, if someone loses a parent or the rest of that you must have a big party. The man must show up. This is when the man must come and show up. If the man borrows money to do it, it doesn't matter. It is, if he doesn't do it, then he has not respected or honored his parents. He has not shown the world that he loves his parents. So all of these lessons are lessons and values that we continue to build in the man. Now, imagine that as all of these are built and compacted, you then have a pressure cooker where the man is living under certain expectations, which you call toxic masculinity. So very toxic, but this is what is expected. Now, add to that the economic challenges that we have, that we live with. You say a man must be a breadwinner. This is an economy where over 27% is unemployed in Nigeria. Over 35% of people between 15 and 34 are underemployed, which means they're doing less than they're qualified to do. They're more qualified than the jobs that they're doing. So all of these have effects on their self-respect, on their self-worth. Yes, and poverty is running at over 40%. So you have situations where, as this continues to grow, is like an incubator for insecurity. And these are the challenges that the man is dealing with, and that is what results in the 10% that you saw in that boy that said, "Women should not talk to me like this." So that is essentially who the man is. And that is, so as this begins to graduate, Bisi, is also that you then find this man who knows and will admit to himself that I am not complete. The man will tell himself in secret that, actually my wife, yes, my wife, I have issues, but I cannot admit, I can't tell anybody. Who am I going to tell? That is why even in church, when the wife comes and says, I want counseling, but the husband says, never take my matter to church. Don't talk to anybody. Because
exactly. I was going to come to that. Sorry, I need to interrupt you there. I have to come to that because I have to bring the church in, because we're both Christians and we have audience who are such as well. I'm saying this because I've realized that even in church, there isn't so much support for men. And I'll say this. When you attend services, all you hear is all women should stay back after church for XYZ meeting. There's a prayer meeting, it is for the women. There's this meeting, it's for the women. There's somebody coming to talk on how to make your marriage work, it is for the women. And so I sit back a lot of times in church and I'm saying, who is helping these men? Who is giving them the support they need? Who is speaking to them? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And so the only thing, Tunji, I see happen even in our churches is when they have financial meetings, empowerment. That's where you see men. And so the next thing you hear is there's going to be a meeting for men. And you're wondering, thank God, finally. And the next thing you hear is it's not a meeting that is going to help them to deal with emotions. It's not a meeting that is even going to guide them on how to be better husbands or how to be better males. It's a financially empowering meeting. And so that makes me think that isn't this one of the reasons why we have issues? Why men have issues and are not able to talk about it. And so we just all, even in church, we all tend to lump it in that once Tunji is financially capable, then he's the man. So how can we help? How can the church also help in this area?
Bisi, in truth, what has happened is that the church has learned. The church has learned that when they put such meetings together, the number of people that will show up, the men that will show up, are not many. Because men are always busy. Men are always busy. I mean, there was a program, January, a men's program that was held to kind of break into the year, and it was a big program. And I was surprised. It was very clear, branded as a man's program, and so we had men coming, but I was shocked to see women in that. Shocked to see women in the meeting. So women came into the meeting. They sat down. Nobody could tell them to go because, come on, it's not a secret society. So the women sat through the meeting. The person who was conducting the meeting had to recognize the women and say, "This is supposed to be a men's meeting. Are you attending on behalf of some men?" The women sat down, and they sat down. They were taking notes. So the other stereotype of the man is that the man is too busy. The man is busy. He's always busy. Busy doing what? He's too busy to
Please,
spend
busy doing what? Tunji, you need to answer that question since you're a man. Busy doing what exactly? Like someone is saying here on the live chat, men don't come. He says, count how many men are on this program today. And so the women are going to listen and go back to them. So what are men really busy doing at the end of the day that they're not ready to listen to what can help them also grow?
all of this is still encapsulated in the pretense, the kind of life that we live. So if I am supposed to be busy, right? You find, for example, the examples where a man does not have a job, he's been sacked from his job, but he keeps going, leaving the house every morning as if he's going to the office. Did you get that? So
Yes,
because why? Why would he do that? He would do that because he's conditioned. Is really what is important to him is his reputation. So the man's reputation is very important. Reputation means that, so this man has been working in a place for about 10, 15 years, and then he's been fired from work. You see, he's been fired from work. So when he's been fired from work, he's supposed to there's nowhere he's going. He's not even applying. But the man will leave the house in the morning and drive out as if he's going to work. Because the man is thinking about what the neighbors are going to say. Why is your husband at home at this time? He's a lazy man. What is he doing? Now, but the man is, so what is more important to us is what is on the outside. So the fact that they are not here, the fact that they don't come for such services or such programs is not because what they're doing is more important, but the values that we have attached to certain things are more important than the values that we have attached to things of God. Wow. So you find, for example, if Chelsea or Barca were playing at this time, you can be sure that 70% of men will be locked in and watching it.
Absolutely.
Now, yes, so there's certain values, certain things that we've conditioned as being more important. And thank God, we know that we've had a lot of challenges with this COVID. We're praying that it will come, it will leave. But this lockdown has actually helped some families because it has made the men to sit down at home and just face the woman, face the children. You are not going anywhere. So it is these value systems, and the problem is that as these things are going on, there's a lot of destruction that is going on inside the man. So the man is looking at his body image. How does the society see me? How the neighbors must respect me. Everybody must respect me. So the man is looking at everything in his body. But not only that, he's also looking at, he has performance anxiety. So all of these things that is compressing and carrying in his head and carrying on his mind is affecting his performance, even in the little room. So you find that medical doctors will tell us today that the number of men that are having erectile dysfunction has continued to increase because men are really carrying the kind that should not be carrying, and because the society condition that way. And then you then come to the financial challenges as well, where we're having homes where the woman is becoming the breadwinner, and then the man is having to sit back and then watch. So all of these expectations are the things that have conditioned the man of today in the way that we act and behave.
I agree with you, Tunji, but I'd also like to emphasize the fact for as many people who are watching, for our listeners, that you when you started, you talked about the family you grew up in. I think family has to revisit bringing up men or boys or male sons in a way that they understand the fact that there's more to life than being breadwinners. There's more to them. There's a need for them to show emotion. There's a need for them to show affection. There's a need for them to do that. I remember one day we were talking, I think, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying this, that there was a time in your life you didn't have a job, right? That you had to rely on your wife to give you money for transport or something like that, if I remember correctly. But it didn't change you. It didn't affect who you were.
Yes,
because
you're right. So it's very.
Go on.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So go on. You were going to say something.
Yes, you're right, and I think I gave that example a while back in one of our meetings. That starting out for me personally, um, I started out. I tried to, so I was in paid employment, and early I wanted to try out and do work for myself. And then when I tried that for about a year or two, and nothing was happening, and my wife was working then in a bank, and my wife was we were not married then. And then, she would send money to me. She would
Mm,
give me money to go out, transport money, and so on and so forth. And then ultimately, I was going out, and that is part of the challenge. I spent about a year or two trying to make that business work when it was obvious that it wasn't going to work. But while that was happening, yes, I was going out every morning for that business. I was carrying my briefcase. I was getting into the car. I was jumping out and so on and so forth. This was so many years ago. But my wife was the one who was taking care of everything then. Would send money, would, ask if this was so. I was, and some of those cases, I couldn't ask for money. I couldn't ask for money because, again, being brought up that you don't ask for money from your wife. But again, she would dial in and ask and say, yes, do you need money? Oh, you must need money now. And then, and so on and so forth. And for me, I can never, ever forget that, no matter what happens
mm,
at any point in time. I can't forget that. So I see families going through this stage now where the woman is the breadwinner. And I'm saying that it is not the end of the world.
mm.
It is just a situation that is happening now. I also see some situations where, if you look at the trajectory of the career or the business of the man and the woman,
Mm.
and if you look at the situation that warrants that, maybe the wife is working, the husband is working, there's some cases where the wife will necessarily earn more than the husband. You cannot stop it. So you have to live with it. And, in living with it without allowing that to affect your security and then your self-worth is how you have peace. But if you keep compounding these things and then carrying them, this is why you have, if you look at the number of people that you had, they jump from third mainland into the bridge, more men than women. You will not see a lot of women jumping. It will be men, because the man just sees himself as a failure once he's not able to do A, B, C.
Okay, there's this question that keeps coming to my mind. I've had occasions where I've had to counsel people and I'm talking to them, and I heard things like, my husband is not comfortable with me doing this. My husband is not comfortable with me doing that. My husband wants me to be a housewife. Let me give a very good example. This couple are having issues in marriage. And it's really, after a while, it was something they tried to manage. They tried to manage. But after a while, the girl just wasn't having any more of this. They'd been married about 7 years. And so she packs her stuff and she ups and she goes. And when this happens, of course, the way it is, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of
Mm,
noise. The parents are
mm,
not happy. Her mother goes, you have to go back. It's your husband and things like that. And so I
mm,
get talking to her. And she sat down with me and she looked at me and she said, Auntie, she said, when he married me, I
mm,
was practicing the legal profession, doing very well, had a fantastic job. But
mm,
because they were trying to have a child, she kept having miscarriages. And so everybody was like, okay, probably work and whatever. So she took time off work
mm,
to have a baby. Eventually, she got pregnant and she had a child and maybe had two children. And now she wants to go back to work. And her husband says, no, she can't go back to work, that she should stay back home and take care of the children and whatever. And I'm like, okay, do you have a help? She goes, yes, she has a nanny. I mean, like, it's something they can afford to do. They're comfortable to do that,
mhm,
quite all right. But she now said something that hit me. She said, he's just an insecure man. And I go, why do you say that? She says, because her business, she earns more than he does.
mm,
And so he's
mm,
always felt like kind of threatened. And so the opportunity for her to take time off work, right, was a good opportunity to kind of box her, in her words. And she says she's not
mm,
going to have any more of that. So how do we deal with like issues like this? A man just wants your life to stop because he feels
mm.
threatened for whatever reasons.
Mm.
You can't even have a conversation about it.
It's so there's different signs that you find, and you can find that this is clear insecurity, where a man sees his wife as a competitor. That is clear. There's insecurity there. The Bible says that we're meant to work together in the marriage, and we have our strengths and weaknesses. There are parts and areas where you are better than I am. So I must own and accept that. And if that part is to say you work and I do this and I do that, or if even by nature of the kind of work that we do, it may take 5 years for mine to mature, but yours is already, and there are examples like that where you can earn more. But it is a sign of insecurity when a man is always trying to force the woman down and not allowing her to become what she wants to become. It is a sign of insecurity when you see a form of jealousy, that it's almost like the wife, when anytime they go out together, the wife is always watching the husband before she says anything, and it's almost like a dog that is watching the master in case the master just and you see that sometimes that the man is like a king, is like a lion, and then they go out, and when they go out together and they are with their friends, the friends can see, especially the female friends, that's the women that they go out, that this lady Kemi is not behaving the way she behaves. Kemi is not talking. Kemi is not expressing herself. Kemi is forever. And then when she gets a chance to escape to the kitchen with the wife that they go to visit, is when she's then able to talk and then say this and say that. But clearly you can tell, because again, in such homes, there are examples when they get back home and then the husband say, "What were you talking about in the kitchen?" Because there's certain things that the man is, again, in all this showman perspective, the man doesn't want the neighbor to know that you are the one that is doing this. You are the one that bought the car. You are this and this and this. So at the end of the day, so what is wrong in knowing all of this? And
exactly.
then
I was going to, so sorry, I need to come in here. I was going to say that I think the major problem with that is that we tend to live our lives for people. I think that's what's happening to most of us. And when that happens, you're more concerned about what other people are thinking than how you feel or the next person feels. Let me give an example. People, everybody they have the way they assume that things must be. They have the way they assume that things must look. Okay, a very good example that comes readily to mind. Somebody comes to visit the house many years ago, I remember. By the grace of God, I have 2 children, a female and a male. And my son was sweeping the living room. He was sweeping and doing stuff. And after a while, this person who was in the house looked and said, and says it in Yoruba, it's your son that is sweeping. How can a man be sweeping? And I looked at him. I moved I pretended like I didn't hear that. And, because I ignored it, he repeated again. And my son could now hear him. And he goes, Oluwaseyi, why are you the one that is being made to sweep? Where are the women in the house? And so, of course, now I had to turn. And I looked at him. I said, please, you need to show me where it is written that it is the female that has to sweep the floor. Do you understand? And so I'm imagining the kind of house this gentleman lives in. I'm imagining the way he's grooming his son. And so I had to say to my son, I said, I need you to know how to sweep so that when you get married and your wife can't do stuff, you have to learn to do it. So the point is, because we have been groomed. I mean, I think maybe it's more of an African thing, because we have been groomed this way. And so what now happens is we just tend to think that some things are just not right. And so when you are even doing it, some male, I mean, like a guy helps the wife with the bag, but when you see other people coming, you throw the bag back at her. Why do we live such a life that we're so consumed with what people think and how people perceive it? It's your home. You can do it how you want. Why should we let that rule us? Why does that happen?
You see, there's a stereotype. These are stereotypes that we have lived with for so many times. These are stereotypes. It's difficult to fight stereotypes. The only thing you can do is act against those stereotypes. The stereotype of the Yoruba drama where the mother-in-law comes to visit, and the mother-in-law is checking the bone and is looking at the size of the meat, and is saying that the size of the chicken is so big. So this is why my son is not sending money home, because they're eating one chicken at a go. So those are stereotypes. The stereotype that says that the man is not supposed to do certain things. Now, it's very clear that, and we need to be careful, because guys, we're killing ourselves. That's why the rate of, if you look at the rate of death, of suicide, of depression amongst men, it is huge. If you look at the life expectancy of men, even in Nigeria, it is lower than that of women, because we carry these things as if we're God. We carry them, and then we believe that this is, we're not talking about women being equal to men. That is not what we're saying. So, because very quickly what you find is people switch very quickly when we begin to say these things to the mode where they're saying, guys, are you saying men and women are equal? That is not what we're saying. Now, in terms of equality, that is another discussion for another day. But we are all created by God. God knew the reason why he created Eve to help Adam. He knew that Adam could not accomplish his purpose, God given by himself. He knew that there are certain things that Adam could not do. Because there's some things that as a woman, the man is walking and is going forward, and he doesn't really see certain things. And the woman is saying, you stepped in this place. You stepped in this place. Did I? You said this. You said you shouldn't have. Did I say that? So we are wired in different ways, and therefore we are supposed to complement each other. But the challenge is that men are living a life, and I'm saying this again, not to say that it's all men, because you find some men, and I've seen a lot of men who are comfortable in their skin, and who very clearly are running their families, their homes, their lives in a manner that you can see that they are secure. You can see that they give as much as they take. Yeah. So it's important to build this kind of. You're seeing marriages where there's jealousy between man and woman. Jealousy, where the man is jealous of the woman. Where it's almost like, okay, she has that, then why don't I have it?
Between spouses.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it gets to the extent that it becomes unhealthy, that these people, are you sure these guys will not kill themselves the way they're going? And then this graduates and graduates and graduates to a point where they don't trust each other anymore, where the man begins to see the woman as the source of his problem. They begin to see some spiritual inanities that do not exist. And then they go to prophets who then tell them that your wife is your problem. Maybe when she woke up on the left side, Abby. She's always waking up on the left side. And yes, she's your problem. And at the end of the day, you come down home, you ask the wife to go, and your lot has not improved. So what is the problem? So you must look at yourself first. And this is why some of us have lost it and have failed because of our upbringing. We owe it to the generation that is coming behind us to teach them how men should be. We owe it as a generation. I tell some parents of men that when a boy is some people will say, oh, my boy is behaving like this. She's not, but he doesn't like. I say, yes, it doesn't make him less of a boy. It's just that your boy loves painting. Your boy loves ballet. It doesn't make him less of a boy. It doesn't mean that he's not a boy because he's doing that. He has more friends that are girls. It doesn't make him less of a boy. And so on and so forth. So we have to we have to teach our boys, and unfortunately, generally, we're not teaching the boys as much as we're teaching the girls. And
Exactly. Can I just come into G? Can I come into G?
yes,
Yes, not just teaching them also. Can I say something also? I think in the area of showing affection, I think parents do not show affection enough to their sons. You said something earlier when you started. You said something about the fact that a boy is not allowed to cry. You're not meant to cry. You should bottle your emotions if you feel this way. I'll share with you something that happened, and then I'll throw another situation, and then I'd like you to deal with that. Something happened. My son is a very quiet person. You'll find him, he dives into his room, he's playing his sax, he's just doing his thing quietly and then I realized that this boy, I don't even think I know him again. He's very calm, I'm sure, for those who know him very well, very level-headed. He just minds his business and goes his way. And so this day he comes into my room to do something. And as he snuck into my room, he was going to go out. And I go, Oluwaseyi, please come. And so he stands looking at me. I'm lying down on the bed. I said, Oluwaseyi, please sit down. I want to talk to you. And he looks at me like, what have I done? You know that look. And I'm like, how are you? He goes, fine. You know, that male kind of thing. I know. I said, yes. I said, but how are you doing? How's everything? His father was in the bathroom, so I'm sure he could hear our conversation. And I go, how's life with you? How are things going with you? And he goes, yeah, fine. And I go, Oluwaseyi, do you know I really care about you? He goes, pauses, looks at me, and he nods his head. I said, yes. I said, Orolua is a female. She's a girl. I said, I tell her all the time. I said, I'm sure you've observed I'm always around her. I'm always concerned about her. I said, but can I say this to you, my darling? It doesn't mean that I care about you less than I do her. I said, if there's ever any need for you to talk, if you need advice, like from a mother or from a female, I said, I'll be glad. Tunji, you should have seen the expression on my son's face. I'm sure for a minute, maybe he's watching. I'm sure he must have felt teary. Do you understand? And then I go, can I get a hug? Oh, come on. The boy was 17 going on 18 at that time. And so, but I'm sure it did something to his heart. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I just have to, because I'm saying to myself, who is there? Who knows when? Because we're just like, oh, Kunrinia, you're a guy. Just keep quiet and let it be. Just keep quiet and let it be. And so I just like to say to parents, the male guys, the males there, parents, I think we should begin to show a lot of affection to our male children as well. When you don't give or show affection to them, how are they going to know how to show affection to those colleagues of theirs? And I remember, and I'm saying this, I remember, Oluwaseyi worked with you. I remember somebody in your office met me for the first time, and she was just hugging me. She said, your son is just a gentleman. And I'm like, really? He is? Of course, I felt very good. But why have I said that? You can't be a gentleman if you have not been taught how to take care of women. If you have not been taught, if I have a headache and my son wakes up in the morning, I'm expecting him to ask me how I'm feeling. It's essential. But you see, we don't groom our sons to do that. We say because it's a son. No, that's wrong. Because what we are doing in essence, we are churning out individuals who are incapable of showing emotions. And because they're incapable of showing emotions, the times they feel certain emotions, they feel insecure to let that show, to portray that. And so they bottle up so much. And then what happens? It just erupts like a volcano. And so happens. So we're saying that, what we're saying here is that being insecure is not something you like you're born and God makes you insecure, because the Bible says God made us all perfect. What happens is by watching, like you said concerning the story you gave about TG Jakes and his son, Asholua, your son is watching you also. He's watching the way you treat his mother. He's watching the way you talk to the females around you. And so when we are not careful to show our sons that this is the way to behave, when we are not careful to show them affection and love, to let them see that we care. Oh, come on. We're not grooming individuals that will do well. And so before you comment on that, Tuji, I'd like to say this also. Sorry, excuse me. Just excuse me for a minute. A lady walks up to me to see me for counseling and says to me, Mrs. Ibitayo, my husband's family in the village, they finally gotten him. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? This guy had a job, a fantastic job, 6-figure every month, was doing very well. And then one day there was an opening at work for a position hire. He wanted that position. And so they, you know, the way it was an internal thing, and somebody else got it. It was a female that got it. This lady said to me, it transformed her husband. The loving, caring, doting man would come home angry, grouchy, and just generally taking life out of her. And then before she knew it, I mean, he just turned into a different person entirely. He wasn't as nice and caring. He wasn't so given to work. And then one day he comes home, he has resigned. Is this insecurity, Tunji? And what kind of insecurity is this?
That is insecurity that would take the man to hunger. That is it's so when you've built a mental picture that you cannot report to a woman, especially where the generation that is coming after is a generation where a lot more women are working. If you build an image that a man is not supposed to report to a woman, then it's a risk. It's going to put that family at risk. Not just for
Pardon me, Tunji.
yes, it's a
They
risk.
will hear this by force. They have to hear it. We all have to hear this.
Exactly.
Okay, go on, please.
But is a risk, is a major risk. But the reason we're treating it in a light-hearted manner is because we don't understand the way God has viewed the man and the position that the man is supposed to take. The Bible, it's very clear that we see, anytime you see that there's certain causes, the cause will say that for everyone that pisseth against the wall. I'm sure you've seen that kind of expression in King James in the Bible. It's a curse against men, because always the enemy is looking at a way to kill the destiny of men. Because when you kill the destiny of men, you kill the destiny of the family and the generation that is coming after them.
Because the man carries the seed.
It carries the seed. So when you destroy the man, you destroy the generations that are coming behind them. When the Bible was talking about Ahab, he said when Ahab killed Naboth and took the garden from him, and then the prophet came and said, the Lord says that as the dogs had licked the blood of Naboth, that is the way the dogs would lick your own blood. And not only that, he says you will not have a man to take over your position in your generation that are coming. You will not have any man to occupy this throne. And Ahab became gentle and he repented, and then he went and he begged God. But then God told the prophet, said, go and tell him. He says, because I see that Ahab is now humble and gentle, I will still carry out this punishment, but I will carry it out after him.
He's dead.
Yes, after he's dead. So when Ahab died, his son became king. After his son died, his son did not have a son to become king. His brother, Ahab's brother, became a king instead of. You understand? So the kind of decision that this man is going to take, this man that has gone with a prototype and a wrong ideology that men are not supposed to work under women. And he goes and he finds it difficult to work with this woman, and then he resigns. He can actually sentence his entire family into hunger for years. He can deprive the children of, they can't pay school fees, no house rent, and so on and so forth. What will drive a man to go and resign because you are working with a woman as a boss? So it is something that can decimate an entire generation. So that is why it's very important as women that we work on our men prayerfully, because the cross that they are carrying is bigger, and some of them think that they have the muscles that cross and don't hand it over to the one that carry it. And it comes from being self-aware, because if you don't have self-awareness, if you don't understand where you're struggling and where you're weak and strong, then you won't know. Think about it. For a lot of us, our generation is the first generation that is saying to our male kids, I love you. The generation of our fathers, some of our fathers never said to us as children, I love you. Some of our parents never said to us in that manner, but they expressed it, they showed it. They just didn't say it because that is not who they are. So for some people, this generation is the first generation that is accepting that you have to show affection openly as a man. You have to show love openly